Welcome to the deep dive. We are staring down a truly massive stack of upcoming Marvel material today.
Oh, it's a huge stack.
Yeah, we've pulled from advanced news, internal memos, and I mean some really deep cuts from decades of cosmic continuity. We're talking comic book event setups for 2026, the history of some of the most powerful and frankly destructive cosmic artifacts in the entire universe.
And we're also digging into the detailed, often really tragic histories of two heroes whose lives were just completely defined by absorbing or stealing or just wielding totally unstable power.
That's right. So if you want to know exactly how the Marvel Universe is laying the strategic groundwork for, well, monumental cosmic chaos next year, this is the deep dive for you.
Absolutely. We're tracking this fascinating and incredibly dangerous circle of instability, and it's all converging around one central figure, Carol Danvers.
It all comes back to her, doesn't it?
It really does. You have this powerful artifact that destroys planets, the Nega bands. You have a hero driven utterly mad by that artifact, Genis-Vell. And you have the mutant power absorber, Rogue, whose own identity was permanently warped by Carol herself. It's all connected.
Our mission today is clear. We want to synthesize all these future announcements, including the teases for massive events like Armageddon and Queen in Black, and give you, the listener, the essential insider context.
Right.
You need to understand precisely why characters like Genis-Vell, Rogue, and these Nega bands are perpetually at the dead center of these universe-altering power struggles.
We're moving beyond the summary and, into the why.
We're connecting the dots. From the foundational history of the Kree Empire and mutant power transference all the way to the future movie and comic announcements, you'll walk away with the why behind the coming storm.
And you'll understand that 2026 is going to be defined by unstable energy.
Completely.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We have to start with the biggest strategic announcement on the comic side of things. Comics Giveaway Day, or CGD 2026.
This massive promotional event is happening on Saturday, May 2nd, 2026. And it represents a highly calculated strategy from Marvel.
Oh, absolutely. CGD is not just about handing out free comics, though that's a great part of it.
Right.
It's a precision-engineered marketing and narrative delivery vehicle. It's designed to do, three things at once. First, lower the barrier for new readers.
Get them in the door.
Exactly. Second, reward the loyal fans, and this is critical support, the retailers. And third, and this is most important for us, it offers these free, high-stakes issues that serve as essential prologues to the biggest events of the year.
So it's Marvel basically handing everyone the first domino.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's the critical first domino.
And the 4 titles they've announced cover the entire spectrum of the Marvel Universe. I mean, from apocalyptic cosmic events all the way down to kid-friendly entry points.
Yeah.
Let's look at the first 2 big ones, because they seem specifically engineered to set the stage for these epic crossovers that are going to define the whole year.
Okay, so the first one is Just. It's a massive double feature. It's Amazing Spider-Man, #1000 Queen in Black, #1CGD 2026.
That's a mouthful.
It is, and this single issue is hitting multiple foundational milestones at the same time. First, it continues the relentless countdown to the 1000th issue of Amazing Spider-Man.
Which itself just implies some kind of massive narrative climax for Peter Parker.
It has to. And as that countdown happens, the source material specifically says that fate is supposedly bearing down on Peter Parker.
I mean, that feels like a permanent state for Spider-Man. He's always burdened.
Right, he is.
But given the cosmic severity of the other events they're teasing, I'm guessing this isn't just about him losing his apartment again.
No, I think we're past that. This feels like fate is bringing something truly horrifying that connects to that bigger universal picture. It absolutely does.
Okay.
The other key setup here is for the upcoming massive symbiote event, Queen in Black. This title confirms the coronated status of the Queen in Black.
What does that mean for the listener, the coronated part?
It means the hierarchy of the entire symbiote universe, the literal Clintar, has been definitively established. The power dynamic has shifted, and probably violently.
And crucially, Mary Jane Watson, who is currently Venom.
Yeah, which is still wild to say.
It is. She's apparently not ready for what that coronation entails.
Yeah.
That's a huge reveal right there.
It's a massive reveal. We have to pause on that for a second. MJ becoming Venom is a huge character shift that only happened recently, and this signals it might be a permanent role for her in the symbiote mythology.
Okay.
The fact that the script specifies she is not ready for the Queen in Black, that strongly suggests a massive, overwhelming power differential. This isn't just a physical fight.
No.
It's likely a challenge to her mental or emotional control over the symbiote itself. It could be introducing a level of cosmic darkness she is just entirely unprepared to face or even understand.
But the real showstopper, and the tease that had everyone talking,
Yeah.
is the mention of the Hulk.
Oh, yeah.
It brings up the monstrous infernal Hulk, and the source material explicitly states that the eldest has taken control of the Hulk.
And this is where we shift from just cosmic to outright existential terror. The eldest is one of the elders of the universe.
Right.
Their involvement signals cosmic games played on a planetary scale. For them to take control of the Hulk means his power is now being directed by this ancient, possibly nihilistic entity that has zero regard for Earth.
And the language they used.
Yeah.
It's critical. The source material warns that what happens next will make every past Hulk battle look like a skirmish.
That phrase should stop any longtime Marvel fan cold.
It really should, because Hulk's battles have never been skirmishes.
Yeah.
We're talking about World War Hulk, where he single-handedly fought the entire planet's superhero community.
Do a standstill.
Yeah, we're talking Planet Hulk, where he was rearranging continents on an alien world,
Yeah.
punching holes in dimensions.
Exactly. So to say that these future fights will make those look like a skirmish implies two possibilities, and they're both terrifying.
Okay, what are they?
Well, either the scale of the destruction under the eldest's control is totally unprecedented, like we're talking about threats that could shatter the Earth, not just rearrange it, or the nature of the fight is changing.
What do you mean?
Maybe it's a metaphysical or emotional conflict that's even more devastating than any physical punch. But whatever the mechanics are, this one free comic is setting up three distinct, simultaneous, massive threats.
Spider-Man's fate, the new symbiote hierarchy.
And a Hulk who is about to redefine the limits of planetary destruction. That is a remarkably dense appetizer for the year.
It really is. Now, the second big-ticket giveaway item is Armageddon X-Men, #1CGD 2026.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a critical story written by the fan-favorite Chip Zdarsky that immediately sets up the major summer event of 2026, which is just titled Armageddon.
Simple. To the point.
Very.
This summer event is clearly framed around the heroes of the Marvel Universe assembling and take on the Red Hulk.
So that instantly tells us the threat level is immense. It requires a full unified roster response.
Absolutely. And the name Armageddon itself implies this is an existential threat to life on Earth. The announcement backs that up, stating that no one is safe from the coming end.
So the question isn't if the world is ending, but how many heroes will survive it.
That's the question. And while Red Hulk is the centerpiece, this issue also provides two other crucial glimpses into the future.
Okay.
We get a prelude to the next X-Men milestone, which signals the next massive shift in mutant politics after the current status quo.
Which is always crucial because X-Men milestones fundamentally reshape the mutant landscape.
Yeah.
It affects every corner of the Marvel Universe, not just, Krakoa or wherever the X-Men are at the time.
Right. And this issue also includes a check-in with Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four, along with deliberate glimpse of Dr. Doom.
Doom's appearance in any announcement about a cosmic world-ending threat is never an accident.
Never.
He's either the instigator, the cause, or, more cynically, the beneficiary, just waiting to seize control of the power vacuum that's left over.
And that connects back perfectly to the theme of instability we're talking about. When you have an event named Armageddon, the most complex, calculating, and power-hungry players like Doom are always waiting for the chaos to peak.
He sees cosmic threats not as problems, but as opportunities.
Exactly. Opportunities to prove his superiority and seize greater authority. His presence means the heroes won't just be fighting the Red Hulk, they'll be fighting for the political and power future of a post-Armageddon Earth.
Okay, so beyond the main continuity universe, we also see Marvel continuing their acclaimed 20th Century Studios storytelling.
Yes, with Alien, Predator, and Planet of the Apes, #1CGD 2026. This is a huge win for fans of cinematic sci-fi horror.
It's a great demonstration of them using the depth of their acquired properties.
Totally. The source material highlights 3 specific tales, and each one just ups the tension. Saladin Ahmed is writing a story set on a planet that has already succumbed to xenomorphs.
So it's not about the initial outbreak.
No, it's a bleak post-infestation landscape. It forces you to view survival through this lens of utter hopelessness. It's about navigating a world where the apex predator has already won.
And then we get the Predator side of things. Jordan Morris is giving us a story where a Yacha warrior is stalking one of Earth's greatest fighters.
And the whole tease is built around the anticipation of which fighter it is.
Right. Is it Captain America? Is it Wolverine?
Black Panther. The anticipation is central to the stakes because it immediately elevates the hunt from a standard Predator story to one that intersects with core Marvel continuity. It forces a fan-favorite character to face the ultimate hunter.
And then, of course, a return to the world of Planet of the Apes. And finally, they ensure they don't forget the youngest readers.
Which is so crucial for the future of the medium.
Yeah, with Spidey and his amazing friends, #1CGD 2026. This one is positioned as the best first comic book experience for little ones.
It's incredibly smart positioning. You get the core trio Spidey, Spin, and Ghost Spider, but the adventure focuses on a visit from two incredibly popular, if unconventional, characters.
Jeff the Land Shark.
And the shape-shifting alien Symbi.
Jeff the Land Shark has become a phenomenon. He's proof that sometimes the simplest, most bizarre characters, a shark with little legs, can completely capture the imagination.
Totally. And the story hook is fantastic. Symbi, the shapeshifter, turns Jeff's world upside down. It's a fun, accessible story that shows Marvel is actively nurturing the next generation of readers.
Okay, now, zooming out from the comics for a second, there's also a massive theatrical announcement that provides essential context for the state of the live-action universe right before the next huge cinematic event.
Yes, the announcement that Marvel Studios' Avengers, Endgame, is returning to theaters in 2026. This cinematic event kicks off starting September 25, 2026.
And the timing is, as always, everything here. This re-release is positioned right before the highly anticipated Avengers. Doomsday hits theaters on December 18th, 2026.
It's pure strategic genius. It's a calculated, deliberate strategy. Endgame was the grand conclusion of the first decade of the MCU, the ultimate final stand against Thanos.
Right.
By bringing it back right before Doomsday, they're doing two things. First, they're refreshing the audience's memory of the absolute highest stakes the MCU has ever faced. And second, they're setting the emotional and structural bar for Doomsday incredibly high.
So the audience will walk into the new film carrying the weight and the memory of that initial sacrifice.
Exactly.
And we shouldn't overlook the sheer historical significance of Endgame. It completely shattered records in 2019. It claimed the biggest opening weekend ever with a global haul of $1.2 billion.
An unbelievable number.
It's still the second highest grossing film domestically and globally. So bringing that level of cinematic nostalgia back to the screen right before Doomsday is an incredibly potent piece of marketing.
It sets the narrative stakes for the entire year. It sets the bar sky high, forcing Doomsday to contend with the legacy of its predecessor.
So all these announcements, both the comic events like Queen in Black and Armageddon and the cinematic re-release, they all point toward massive, often catastrophic cosmic stakes.
And instability. And that, naturally, brings us to the centerpiece of unstable power in the Marvel cosmos, the artifact that is currently haunting Carol Danvers. The negabands.
Let's get into it.
The negabands are one of the great foundational pieces of Kree technology, but they're so much more than just fancy energy-granting bracelets. They are ancient, highly destructive relics from the cosmic Kree Empire.
So they're an evolution of the quantum bands that Quasar wears.
Exactly. Which means they're fundamentally designed to handle and manipulate far greater amounts of energy. They're inherently tied to the tragic legacy of Captain Marvel.
Okay, let's break down the core function because it's wildly complicated and it's critical to understanding the chaos of Genis-Vell. How do they actually grant power?
Their fundamental power is tied to the mind. They are designed for the conversion of mental energy, the wearer's own thoughts, will, emotional state, into raw, physical, usable power. This incredible translation system grants the wielder a broad suite of superhuman abilities: super strength, super speed, travel through space, and highly precise power to manipulate energy and matter.
So they're tools of ultimate thought-to-action power.
Precisely. But the truly critical and dangerous mechanism is their function as a cosmic transportation device.
They're dimension shifters.
Exactly. They instantaneously transport the wearer across vast distances, often into other dimensions. The most famous connection is their tie to the negative zone.
Or sometimes the microverse.
Or the microverse. The original use established this system perfectly. Marvel, the first Captain Marvel, and Rick Jones shared the negabands.
And that system was bizarrely taxing.
It was exhausting. By striking the bands together, they would trigger an atomic swap.
Yeah.
One of them would stay in our dimension, while the other was instantly shunted off into the negative zone, essentially held in stasis.
And they had a telepathic link across dimensions.
They did, to coordinate their efforts. It meant neither of them ever truly got a moment of peace. knowing their consciousness was always tethered to the other dimension.
And Mar-Vell's story with the bands ended in such profound tragedy. Not because of a supervillain, but because of fate and science.
It's one of the great ironies of Marvel history. Mar-Vell contracted terminal lung cancer from exposure to compound 13 nerve gas. The negabands, at first, used their vast power to suppress the cancer, keeping him functioning as a hero. But this suppression simultaneously made all medical treatments, chemotherapy, radiation, entirely ineffective. The power that sustained him was the same power that prevented him from being cured. It led directly to his death.
The negabands sealed his fate by giving him power.
They did, and the bands are so inherently powerful that their instability extends far beyond individual heroes. They can literally destroy entire civilizations.
This is where it gets really interesting, right?
Yeah. This is where it gets really interesting, because we move from personal tragedy to cosmic war. After Mar-Vell's death, the supreme intelligence, the governing entity of the Kree, took a set of the negabands and transformed them into the negabomb.
That is a terrifying escalation. Why turn a powerful artifact into a weapon of mass destruction?
This happened during the height of the Kree-Shi'ar War, one of the most destructive cosmic conflicts ever. The Kree Empire, led by the Supreme Intelligence, was facing total defeat.
So it was a last resort.
It was a cold calculation. The intelligence, a being of pure logic, saw the Kree species as having stagnated evolutionarily. It calculated that the only way to kickstart their dormant genetic potential was to wipe out the vast majority of the population and force the remainder to evolve out of necessity.
So destruction was necessary for evolution.
Precisely. A brutal existential gamble. So the intelligence converted the energy storing negabands into a bomb, which utterly destroyed the Kree homeworld Hala and decimated much of the surrounding star system. This catastrophic event fundamentally reshaped the balance of power in the cosmos. It proves these bands are not just tools of heroic endeavor, they are instruments of universal consequence.
Which brings us to Genis-Vell, the highly unstable inheritor of this legacy. He's the son of Mar-Vell, but conceived under bizarre circumstances.
Yeah, post-mortem. After Mar-Vell's death, his love, Elysius, used his stored cellular samples to conceive Genis-Vell. Crucially, he was raised in total isolation and artificially aged at an accelerated rate.
And for most of his early life, he believed that Star Fox, Thanos' brother, was his father.
Correct. Not the legendary hero Mar-Vell. So you have an artificial childhood, was lied to about his parentage, and was rapidly aged. That's a psychological time bomb waiting to go off before the negabands even enter the picture.
It absolutely is.
He eventually learned the truth and then received the negabands from the Silver Surfer, which activated his latent cosmic powers. He initially vowed to carry on his father's legacy, taking the codename Legacy.
But history repeated itself almost immediately. The bond with Rick Jones returned.
It did, and it was unwanted. Genis was unwillingly bonded to Rick Jones again. Just like his father, they were atomically bonded, forced to swap between the Marvel Universe and the Microverse.
Their relationship was much more hostile than Rick's with Mar-Vell.
Oh yeah. The tension was immediate, and this bond immediately introduced the critical element that drove Genis completely off the rails: cosmic awareness.
This wasn't just power, it was a psychological curse.
It was the true, overwhelming curse of the power transfer. Cosmic awareness granted him omnipresent awareness of all events happening across the universe, spanning the past and the future.
That's too much information for a mortal mind.
Way too much. It was an unrelenting deluge of noise, sensory data, and destiny. Both Genis and Rick began to suffer catastrophic mental breakdowns, hallucinating threats before they occurred, struggling to filter the noise of the cosmos.
He tried to find help. He worked with Moondragon, a powerful telepath.
He did, and it was a struggle. Moondragon helped him gain some control, allowing him to function as a hero for a while. But the core internal struggle remained. He was struggling desperately with the immense pressure of seeing every moment unfold, forcing him to make impossible choices about who lived or died on a universal scale.
The weight of omnipresence broke him.
It broke him down, turning him cynical and nihilistic. And this is where his path darkened completely. We move from troubled hero to cosmic tyrant who simply couldn't handle the burden of being a god.
His descent accelerates violently.
He chose a dark path. He joined the Imperial Kree Army, claiming he wanted to spread order, but his actions were pure madness. He killed the entire Kree Army stationed there. And then, in a profound, bizarre visual statement, he famously beat up the actual corporeal spirit of his own father, Mar-Vell, with a gravestone.
Wow. A total rejection of the legacy.
A total rejection, and the narrative climax of his madness is hard to top.
The universal destruction.
Sure. He met entropy, a purely nihilistic cosmic being. Genis, overwhelmed and desperate for permanent silence, joined forces with entropy. Together, they destroyed the entire universe.
Not a city, not a planet, the entire fabric of existence.
Annihilated. But because this is the Marvel Universe, that destruction was temporary.
They reversed it, thanks to Rick Jones.
They did. At Rick's desperate urging, Genis used his power to recreate and rewind the universe. But the act only intensified Genis's delusions. It confirmed in his mind that he possessed the power of creation itself.
So he now truly believed himself to be a god.
Yes, and this led to increasingly erratic and destructive behavior. He picked fights with cosmic heavyweights like Thor, tried to forcibly move to Asgard, conquered a planet, and in a moment of utter chaos, crashed a high-level galactic empire meeting that was being held specifically to discuss what to do about the threat of Genis-Vell.
So he was universally recognized as an active threat to cosmic stability.
Oh yeah, the whole cosmos was on alert.
So who or what finally brought him back from the brink?
It was a bizarre intervention by his immediate family. Star Fox returned, along with Elysius, whom Genis had actually raised from the dead, and Phyla-Vell, his sister, who he inadvertently created when he remade the universe.
So they confronted him.
They appealed to his deeply buried sanity, and they succeeded in restoring his clarity. He attempted to be a hero again, now under the code name Photon.
But his history is truly a spiral of good intentions, leading to necessary catastrophic choices. He then committed one of the most morally complex acts in Marvel history.
His history is defined by sacrificing the personal for the universal. He was drawn into a future timeline where he met his son, Eli-Val. Genis learned that in the future, Eli-Val would be responsible for freeing the Magus, Adam Warlock's evil counterpart.
Which would lead to untold suffering.
Exactly. So out of profound grief and a terrifying sense of necessity, Genis traveled back in time and killed his son as a child to prevent the Magus' release. He returned to the present, utterly broken.
That kind of decision, I mean, killing your own child to save the universe, that's an impossible choice that permanently defines a character.
It is. And ultimately, this immense power finally led to his official death at the hands of a villain who actually believed he was doing the right thing. Baron Zemo.
So Zemo didn't kill him out of hatred.
No, but out of universal necessity. Zemo had been working with Genis on the Thunderbolts. When Genis was injured, Zemo used the Moonstones to heal him. But Zemo, being hyper-intelligent, realized that the Moonstone's volatile interaction with Genis was creating a paradox that would eventually cause the universe to unravel.
So Zemo concluded that Genis's existence, even when stable, was simply too great a threat to reality itself.
Precisely. In Thunderbolts #100, Zemo fought and killed Genis, then used the Moonstone's energy to scatter his remains throughout the deepest reaches of the Dark Force dimension.
A deliberate act of permanent erasure.
Or so he thought.
Which, naturally in comics, meant he'd be back in a decade. And his return was thanks to a deeply complex resurrection method involving Rick Jones's girlfriend.
It's classic comic book logic. The Kree villain Vox Supreme resurrected Genis using stray molecules that had bonded to Marlo Chandler Jones, Rick's longtime love, during her time teleporting alongside Rick.
Wow, that's a deep cut.
A very deep cut. And this brings us right up to the present chaos, connecting Genis's deadly past directly to Carol Danvers' current life.
And the Nega bands themselves.
The current turmoil involves a new mysterious villain called the Omen. The Omen, recognizing the immense power the bands represent, attacked Genis to steal them. The Omen sliced off both of Genis's hands and impaled him, seemingly killing him again.
But the Omen didn't manage to grab the bands.
No. A petty thief named Yuna Yang, who happened to be robbing Rick Jones's apartment, found the released Nega bands and put them on. In doing so, she inadvertently bonded herself directly to Carol Danvers.
So the Omen, unable to claim the bands, seized control of the supposedly dead Genis.
And turned him into her servant, a sentient weapon, to hunt down the bands and their new wielder.
So Carol Danvers is now suffering the exact fate Mar-Vell and Genis-Vell shared with Rick Jones. She's bonded to a complete stranger, a thief named Yuna Yang.
And they're forced to swap places between Earth and the negative zone by striking the bands together. And that's the terrifying high-stakes price of power right now for Carol. She feels drawn into the negative zone with every bit of energy she emits.
Her fate is now tied directly to this thief and the volatile history of this artifact.
The Nega bands are an artifact of ultimate power, but they always come paired with inescapable destiny, universal threat, or terminal consequences.
We've established how Carol Danvers is currently entangled with the Nega bands. But her history and her powers are also inextricably intertwined with another hero who literally absorbed her power. A hero whose tragic relationship with skin-to-skin contact defined her entire career. Rogue.
Rogue, or Anne-Marie Lebeau, is perhaps the single greatest example of a hero whose power is a devastating, inescapable curse.
Her core mutant ability is highly dangerous. The ability to absorb powers, skills, memories, personalities, and sheer life energy of anyone she touches.
And the mechanism is brutally definitive. It requires literal skin-to-skin contact. And the consequences for the victim range from unconsciousness to death, depending on how long the contact lasts.
The trauma that defined her entire adult life started with an utterly accidental teenage kiss.
Her powers first emerged when she kissed her friend, Cody. That brief, innocent contact was enough to place him into a lifelong, irreversible coma.
And this is why she perpetually covers herself up. She was convinced that physical contact was entirely off the table for her entire life. Her power made her permanently untouchable.
Exactly. But the flip side of that personal trauma is that tactically she becomes what the source material accurately calls a one-woman army. By retaining multiple abilities, she could instantly become a composite hero, perfectly tailored for any fight.
And no absorption was more defining than the permanent acquisition of Captain Marvel's powers.
This happened when Rogue was still a villain, working for the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants under Mystique and Destiny.
She battled Carol Danvers, who is then Mrs. Marvel, specifically trying to prove herself.
And that battle was catastrophic for Carol Danvers. In Marvel Superheroes #11, Rogue held onto Carol for just a moment too long and permanently absorbed her powers. Carol was completely stripped of her abilities.
While Rogue gained the entire power set: flight, superhuman strength, stamina.
And a highly valuable sixth sense, the ability to subconsciously predict her opponent's moves in battle.
But the real life-altering damage wasn't just the physical power, it was the psychological consequence. Rogue also permanently siphoned Carol's entire psyche, her memories, her personality, her whole life history.
The resulting conflicting personalities were overwhelming. Carol's psyche lived within Rogue, often challenging her original identity, risking the complete overriding of Rogue's own personality.
Imagine carrying every single memory and regret of another powerful individual inside your head, constantly fighting for control.
This mental civil war was so intense, it forced Rogue, a former villain, to seek out Professor X for help, which led her to join the X-Men. She literally had to flee the psychological consequence of her victory.
And this internal conflict wasn't resolved quickly. The Carol Danvers psyche remained a massive complication for years.
No, for a decade. When Rogue went through the mystical Siege Perilous, a multidimensional gateway designed to strip individuals of their past identities, the residual Carol psyche actually took on a separate physical human form. It became a whole new character.
So the Siege Perilous purged the conflicting elements of her identity, but separated them into two distinct beings.
Exactly. Rogue eventually had to fight and defeat this physical manifestation of Carol's mind with help from Magneto. It was the ultimate metaphor for fighting your own internal demons, realized in the most literal comic book way possible.
There was a moment of reconciliation much later, though, that marked a profound turning point.
Much later, on a space mission, Rogue temporarily developed the ability to absorb powers without physical touch. She unwillingly reabsorbed Carol's power, but this time, Carol willingly shared it with her former nemesis.
A huge change in their relationship.
It showed a shared maturity and understanding of their intertwined fates.
Now, Carol wasn't the only Avenger whose fate Rogue accidentally hijacked. She also had a dramatic and highly lethal interaction with Wonder Man, Simon Williams.
This was another instance of power absorption leading to instant, fatal consequences. Rogue absorbed immense ionic energy from Wonder Man, and she retained that massive ionic energy core.
This led to unforeseen lethality.
She, entirely unaware of the true extent of his strength, accidentally killed the Grim Reaper with a single punch when she first absorbed Wonder Man's power.
So her power is often uncontrollable if she doesn't know the exact limitations of the energy she takes on.
Exactly. And just like Carol, Wonder Man's consciousness lingered inside her even after his physical body disappeared.
His body was made of pure ionic energy, right?
Yes, so when Rogue absorbed all of it to fight a Celestial, his physical form vanished entirely. But his mind lived on inside Rogue, another internal tenant.
And the only way his mind finally broke free was a truly bizarre comic moment.
One of the most bizarre. Rogue kissed Deadpool and temporarily absorbed his healing factor.
Wait, I have to stop you again. The solution to containing a powerful ionic consciousness was kissing Deadpool.
Yes. The influx of Deadpool's hyper-accelerated, chaotic, bioregenerative energy provided the exact molecular shockwave needed. That healing influx allowed Wonder Man's ionic consciousness to emerge in a brand new, stable body.
A bizarre molecular swap enabled by Deadpool's unique chaos.
It highlights how unpredictable power absorption can be.
Rogue's power set seems to be in constant flux. She had dramatic power shifts involving scrolls and other complex biology.
During the period when Earth was an intergalactic prison, Rogue absorbed Zcan, a telepathic mutant Skrull. The resulting biological mixed-mutant Kree-human and Skrull biology caused her powers to become profoundly unstable. She began spontaneously manifesting previously absorbed abilities like Wolverine's claws.
Then she had a brief, magnificent period of total control, followed by total loss.
Her teammate Sage helped jumpstart her powers, granting her the ability to perfectly use and control any ability she had ever absorbed. She was truly the ultimate walking arsenal.
But that ended abruptly.
Yeah, the villain Vargas impaled her with a sword, which violently burned out all her powers, forcing her into a temporary retreat.
Once her powers returned, she immediately acquired another permanent addition.
She did. While trying to save him, Rogue permanently absorbed the solar powers and, critically, the hot-headed personality of her X-Men teammate, Sunfire.
So even after decades of struggle with Carol Danvers' psyche, she was still struggling with controlling the personality transference.
Exactly. And the hits kept coming, climaxing in one of the most psychologically traumatic events of her life, absorbing billions of minds at once.
The Hecatomb incident.
The Hecatomb was a monstrous living Shi'ar weapon that contained the minds of billions of beings it had consumed. Rogue, trying to neutralize it, touched it, instantly absorbing all those minds.
That's instantaneous psychological overload.
She was bombarded by the collective trauma and history of an entire civilization, which instantly put her into a deep coma.
That is the ultimate terrifying consequence of her power. And what cured her?
The only thing that cured her and miraculously removed the lingering Sunfire powers was the simple, innocent touch of the newborn mutant messiah, Hope Summers.
It often takes massive cosmic or mystical events to fix the chaos Rogue's power creates.
It does. But she eventually achieved a sustained breakthrough that allowed her to wield her powers responsibly.
Who finally helped her unlock that potential.
It took Professor X and Danger, the sentient former Danger Room. They explained to her that the trauma she experienced with Cody and Carol had caused an arrested development of her powers. Her unconscious mind, terrified of causing harm, had put a block on her own abilities.
So by breaking down those self-imposed mental walls, they unlocked her true potential.
Yes. This newfound control was a game changer. It allowed her to regularly borrow small, harmless amounts of power from teammates. She could absorb multiple abilities at once to tackle major threats, like absorbing several Avengers and X-Men to fight a Celestial.
But even with this breakthrough, the mental strain was ultimately too great.
Correct. The sheer logistical strain from managing dozens of personalities was still overwhelming. Eventually, the Scarlet Witch had to step in and use her own powers to remove most of Rogue's borrowed abilities, finally restoring her mental equilibrium.
Her power remains inherently volatile, even when supposedly controlled.
Because of the sheer magnitude of identity she is capable of stealing.
And bringing her story right into the modern media context, we see Rogue's signature power absorption highlighted perfectly in the Marvel Rivals video game.
She recently joined the roster. Her signature ability in the game mirrors her comic book capability. She can absorb enemy hero buffs or even critical signature abilities. She can steal Doctor Strange's Shield of the Seraphim or Loki's regeneration domain.
So even in a fast-paced video game, she is the hero who forces you to rethink your entire strategy.
She turns the opposition's strengths into her own weapons. It's a perfect distillation of her comic book identity.
So if we look at the immense stack of source material we've unpacked today, a clear and tragically recurring pattern emerges, particularly surrounding Carol Danvers.
She is undeniably the nexus point of cosmic volatility in the Marvel Universe right now.
I mean, think about it. She was the key figure Rogue permanently absorbed power from, setting Rogue on her path as a hero burdened by a stolen identity.
And now, currently, Carol is personally and unwillingly bonded to the Negapans, the most powerful and destabilizing cosmic artifact in the Kree arsenal. And the former wielder, Genis-Vell, has gone mad, destroyed the universe, and is now weaponized and hunting her down for those very bands.
The irony is profound. Carol Danvers is simultaneously a victim of power absorption, losing her identity to Rogue, and a current unwilling conduit for the most destructive cosmic technology in existence.
The future of the Marvel Universe, from the Queen in Black to the Armageddon threat, is built upon these intricate, often calamitous connections between powerful heroes and the world-ending artifacts they're forced to carry.
For you, the learner, this deep dive reveals that being well-informed about the biggest upcoming events isn't just about reading the next issue. It's about understanding the deep, psychological, and cosmic history built over decades.
It highlights the utterly volatile nature of cosmic power, where a hero's greatest tool, like the negabands, can easily become a universe-ending threat, and how one accidental touch, like Rogue's kiss, can define a hero's entire tortured life.
Both Genis-Vell and Rogue demonstrate the constant struggle between human ambition and cosmic scale. The source material has given us all the context we need to understand that the stakes of 2026 are not just about defeating the villain.
No, it's about surviving the internal and external consequences of the hero's own immense unstable power. We've established how often cosmic artifacts, especially the negabands, end up turning Kree heroes like Mar-Vell and Genis-Vell into destructive forces.
And we know they're now bonded to Carol Danvers, who is under immense strain and being actively hunted by the Omen.
This raises an important, truly terrifying question for the future. We know Genis-Vell's history includes universal destruction and the murder of his own son out of necessity.
So if the Omen succeeds in forcing the already volatile Carol Danvers to surrender the negabands, or perhaps even forces a devastating atomic bond release that weaponizes the artifact against Carol's will, what happens?
What catastrophic, possibly world-rewinding consequences might the Omen orchestrate using the combined volatile power of Carol's instability and the band's history of universal chaos? The negabands have already annihilated a homeworld and a universe once. With Carol's immense power fueling them, that power is poised to return.
That's something to mull over until the events start dropping next year.
A truly terrifying, high-stakes prospect.
Thank you for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next dive.